Alright, ladies and gentlemen, this last part of Unit 8 is actually kind of an introduction to chemistry for you guys. So you guys that are 8th graders, you guys will hit chemistry in a couple years in high school, 7th graders a year above that. So this is going to be some definite stuff that you're going to want to learn, and you will relearn again when you get to chemistry. Okay, and what we're talking about here is some mixtures. And how to dilute mixtures and find what type of mixture solution that you have and so forth. Alright, and so here we are on page 8 of Unit 8 notes. This is the last section for Unit 8, so we are quickly coming to an end. You only have one more unit after this too, so make sure that you are reviewing everything that you have and paying attention. Alright, so example. One solution is 80% acid and another one is 30% acid. How much of each solution is needed to make a 200 liter solution that is 62% acid? Okay, so first it says to solve the problem we're going to assign appropriate variables and we're going to create a table. Okay, so that's just the easiest way. So what you want to do, you have the first solution, second solution, and then you're going to have your final solution. So this is what it makes, right? And we're going to make a little table out of it. Okay, and we start off with the amount. Okay, so that's how much you have of the total thing. And really what all it says in here is it tells you it wants 200 liter solution. So the final has to be 200. Okay, that's what we know. It's got to be 200. Okay? Now, we know they gave us percent of the acid, right? So percent acid, the first solution is going to be 80%. The second solution is going to be 30%. And the final solution, they want it to be 62%. Okay? And so here's what you need to do. To find out the amount of acid it has, you need to multiply the amount of solution by the acid. Okay, well, we can't multiply a percent, right? So what you're going to do is you're going to turn your percent into a decimal. So it's 0.62 there, this is going to be 0.3, and this is going to be 0.8. Okay, because we can only really work with decimals, you can't really multiply by percent. Alright, now, so if the final solution is 200 liters of the whole thing, right, we're filling in our blanks here. Well, do we know what the first solution is? Okay, we don't, right? So we're going to give that an X. Okay, so we're going to give one of them an X. And it really doesn't matter which one you give it. Okay, it'll work out the same eventually anyway. So the first solution is X. So now to find the second solution, what you're going to do is we know the total is 200, and we know the first is X. So the second solution is going to be 200 minus the first solution, right? That's what's left over. So if you take the total, you subtract the first solution, then you have what is left, which is the second solution. So there's our three different amounts. Okay? Now what you need to do is we need to multiply to find the amount of acid. If 0.8 of the solution is acid and we know the solution is X, that just means you're going to get 0.8X. Okay? For the second one, 0.3 times 200 minus X will give us the amount of acid in the second solution. And finally, for the last one, it's 0.62 times 200, because that's how much is in the last one, right? Now, all you have to do now is you have to add the first two together to get what the last one should be, right? Because the final should be if you add the first two together. So we have 0.8x plus 0.3 times 200 minus x is going to equal 0.62 times 200. Okay? And then all you have to do now is just solve. So let me shrink this down a little bit and get some more room. Alright. I'll change a little color, change it up a little bit. So we have to have a few steps we got to solve here, right? So we get 0.8x plus 0.3 times 200 is going to be 60 minus 0.3x is equal to 0.62 times 200, which will give you 124. Okay, now we combine like terms. 0.8 minus 0.3, you have 0.5x plus 60 is 124. Subtract 60 from both sides, you get 5/10 x, or 0.5x, equals 64. Need to shrink it up a little bit more. Okay, and then we divide by 0.5. And what's another way to divide by 0.5? Divide by a half is to multiply by 2, right? So x equals 128. So our first solution, okay, see if I can move this whole thing. Whoa, that just moved on its own. Alright, so our first solution, okay, up here at the top, whoa, I just moved it, sorry. The first solution up top is 128. But we haven't found out what our second solution is, right? So our first solution is 128. Our second solution is 200 minus the first solution, right? So 200 minus 128, which that will give you 72. Okay, so first is 128. Second is 72. And don't forget, those are both liters. Okay, when you get to chemistry, if you don't put those in there, that will definitely, they'll mark you down for all your units and stuff. So make sure you put those in there. Alright, so hopefully that kind of makes sense. Make yourself a chart. That's the easiest way to do this. Okay, the total amount of your solution, the percent of the acid. Remember, to find out how much of the solution is acid, you multiply them together. Okay, and then add them up to be your final. Alright, so you haven't tried this on the next page. Give that a shot, see how you do. Okay, so I've already filled out the little chart that they have already filled out for you, at least the blanks that they filled in for you, and then we're going to work out the rest together. But here's the problem. It says, try this. A lab technician has one solution that is 60% chlorinated and another that is 40% chlorinated. How much of each solution is needed to make a 100-liter solution that is 50% chlorine? Okay, they want us to fill in the blanks and use an equation to solve. Okay, so they started out with the top. They said the first amount is going to be x for the first solution. We don't know how much it is, right? They want us to find the amounts. But it does have a 60% acid solution, okay, or chlorinated acid, okay? And so the amount of acid is going to be 60%, okay, but they're going to change it to a decimal, so 0.6, right? Change 2 times to the left. That's what changes a percent to a decimal, if you don't remember. Okay, and you get 0.6 times your amount. So acid times the amount will tell you how much is acid. Okay? Now, it says the other solution is 40%, okay, of acid. So we'll change that to a decimal too, 0.4. Okay, now it says that the total solution is 100 liters. Okay, so we have 100 liters over here. And so if the total solution is 100 liters, and we know the first is x, so what's the second? It's going to be 100 minus whatever the first is, so 100 minus x, right? Okay, and so now we have 100 minus x times the amount of acid in the second one, so 0.4 times 100 minus x. Okay, now the last thing they tell us, it says 100-liter solution that is 50% chlorine. So they want 50% in this last one. Okay, so we're going to change that also to a decimal, 0.5. So the total is going to be 0.5 times 100 liters, right? So that's going to be our total amount, and we're going to add these two together to get our total. Okay, so we have 0.6x plus 0.4 times 100 minus x equals 0.5 times 100. Okay, and then now we start solving. So 0.6x plus 0.4 times 100 is 40, and then minus 0.4x equals 0.5 times 100 will be 50. Okay, 0.5 is just a half, right? Alright, now we start solving. 0.6 minus 0.4, because they're like terms. 0.2x plus 40 equals 50, Subtract 40 from both sides. 0.2x equals 10. Okay, let me move it up a little bit and shrink it. Okay, now we got to divide both sides by 0.2. Alright, so we have x equals 10 over 0.2. Okay, well you could do a couple things. You could go off to the side and do a little division problem, put 10 inside and 0.2 on the outside if you want. Or you could do the other thing and get rid of the decimal in your denominator, right? So we're going to multiply times 10 to move the decimal over one time, right? And it does it both times, so x equals 100 over 2. And then you reduce, and that'll give you 50. So our x is 50. So our first solution, let me shrink it down, bring it down a little bit. So our x, let me put this in a different color. So x is equal to 50. So our second solution is 100 minus x, or 100 minus 50. And that's actually the same thing, so it's 50. So first is 50 liters. Second is also 50 liters. Okay? So hopefully that kind of makes some sense to you guys. Make sure you make yourself a chart. We've had a few different charts in our all of our complex word problems. Take your time. Make sure you understand what you're doing here. These word problems can really kind of kick your butt. So take your time, set them up correctly. Make sure you change things. Watch your simple math. You're changing decimals to percents and percents to decimals and so forth. All right. Ask if you got any questions.